Let me stand on the existing protocol, but I cannot but acknowledge my bishop here, Right Reverend Asachu. We all live in Lagos. George told me went to the same secondary school. When he talked about going to nice schools and getting properly trained, I'm sure you were referring to our school, our Krika Grammar School, OGS. And Dr. Komu will worship in the same church at AVMCC, you know, and he's a pace setter in the area or the evolving area. I think he knew Nigeria was going to come to this level. He went to do security studies, and he's the man in business now. They are consulting him everywhere. You know, they say a bad market, a bad day is a good day for other people. Let me acknowledge the very wonderful people here today. Many have been sitting since morning, and it shows our commitment to this nation, our desire to see the church become an instrument for the revolution that we need to get our country back, to snatch it back from the forces of darkness and wickedness that has engulfed it. So let me thank God for bringing us here at this first annual lecture colloquium of the prestigious and ecumenical Christ Church, Port Harcourt. I deeply appreciate the invitation to be on this panel today, and I want to thank my professional colleague, past president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Dr. UNO Waga, for facilitating my invitation. The first time I came to this place to speak, to Christ Church, I was also facilitated, this time not by him, but my friend Jack, who is here. And I know that I have a relationship that is ongoing with this church. Ladies and gentlemen, our nation is going through very tough times, and every opportunity to contribute to its well-being must be taken with both hands. It is heartening that the church has begun to take its rightful place in setting agenda for the nation. When we listen to the 20 points plus one, we now know that the church is waking up in setting agenda. Really, the church cannot be the salt of the earth or the light of the world by being aloof or indifferent to the political, economic, and social happenings in the country. Herein lies the hope for the salvation of Nigeria. Chronically underperforming economy. Nigeria's economy has underperformed over many decades and seems to be getting worse. Except for the 60s and 70s, Nigeria's economy has been under stress from the 80s with occasional flashes of growth. For most of these years, when we adjust our headline GDP growth rates with population growth, the reality is that we've been on a very long recession. I think Mike gave that analogy. We've been on a long recession because population has continued to grow. So real GDP has not really grown to any great significance, and certainly not in the last 5-6 years. It has been long in coming because it is this long recession that has now precipitated and crystallized into the high level of unemployment and poverty in our country. The primary reason for this chronic underperformance and consequent debilitation underdevelopment is that we have largely depended on crude petroleum as the main source of our national income and expenditure. Nigeria's economic fortune rose and fell with the rise and fall of the price of crude oil in the international market. Nigerian political leaders for many decades seem to have been unable to have a real understanding of how an economy grows. And that's a shame. When you hear some of them read the speeches written for them by their speech writers, you get the wrong impression that they mean what they read. Many are long on speeches and promises, but very short on action and delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, every sustainable economic growth is driven by one word called investment. investment. I can say that without investment, there is no economic growth. Investment is what creates businesses. Businesses create jobs. Jobs create goods and services, which is wealth, driving up economic growth and reducing poverty. And investment is both domestic and foreign. Public sector investment in terms of capital expenditure in roads, on roads, bridges, railways, airports, seaports, electricity instigates economic growth. But because public sector expenditure is very limited, the ability to drive economic growth is also limited. But in economics like the one we are currently operating, where the current expenditure has significantly dwarfed capital expenditure, the impact of public sector spending in driving economic growth is further diminished. Entrepreneurs to the rescue. Therefore, sustainable economic growth in mature and high growth economies is essentially driven by private sector investment. And much of this investment is made by entrepreneurs, men and women, who take the risk to set up businesses to fill needs, solve problems, or create value through creating products or services, and in the process, make some profit. It is therefore logical that the more entrepreneurs we have in an economy, setting up more businesses, employing more people, and providing more products and services, the higher will be the growth of the economy, cure ED. Accordingly, we should expect our governments at their different levels to put their major focus on attracting these entrepreneurs to their jurisdictions. That, in my view, should be the major focus of any government that desires economic well-being of the country. Should I have the chance to become the president of this country, I'm going to hold one portfolio. That portfolio is the Minister of Investment. I won't bother with oil because by that time, I mean, like we have said, please, you want to clap, don't threaten to clap. Minister of Investment. I won't bother with oil. Nigerian presidents are worried with oil because they believe in captive, in wasting assets. Our focus should be investment. The moment we get investment flowing, domestic and foreign, half of our problems in Nigeria will be sorted out because our problems in Nigeria, 70% are driven by poverty. Corruption is driven by poverty. And I also believe that even insecurity is also driven by poverty. What is the plight of the entrepreneur in Nigeria? The plight of the entrepreneur in Nigeria, especially those in the small, medium enterprise class, is rather pathetic because we seem not to understand or indeed appreciate their central role in driving economic growth. Most of them seem to operate in hostile environments all over the country. I remember when I tried to set up an office here, there's a company I participate in founding called Red Star Express. We wanted to set up a piece of this Stadium Road. It was hell. You know, there was a time it was difficult to start business in Port Harcourt. It was hell. And that's just like what goes on everywhere. These small and medium-scale enterprises run by entrepreneurs are, one, burdened by high cost of obtaining land or adequate space for their businesses. Two, they find it extremely difficult to access financing from banks, and with the thought of private equity companies, they cannot easily get equity funding. And when the funding is available, they may come at high double-digit interest rates or with unattainable collateral demands. Though some effort have been made in this direction in recent times by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the gap between supply and demand remains very huge. Three, they face extreme bureaucracy in obtaining government approvals and licenses. You may have to pray and fast sometimes to get CFO certification from states. Some states are worse than others. 4, they are subjected to disconcerting policy inconsistencies. Many entrepreneurs have gone to their early death just because of government policy. They go and borrow money. There's a backward integration. The next day it's forward integration, and they die because they don't know what to do with the money they borrowed, how to pay them. After investing them in capital acquisition, equipment acquisition, then government opens the borders again and say import everything. They face extreme challenges in enforcing contracts with a justice system that moves at snail speed. 6, they are compelled to incur unnecessary expenses in providing basic infrastructure and services, roads, electricity, security. Anybody that's an entrepreneur here will know that you become like your own government in most places, including our beautiful Lagos. You have to build your road, provide your water, provide your electricity, employ your security group, settle the area boys, settle everybody, you, the person that will also pay tax at the end of the exercise. The question is, what is our tax being used for? 7, they face multiple and multifarious taxation, stroke extortion from state and non-state actors. 8, they operate in high inflationary and high cost environment, which often makes them globally uncompetitive. 9, they are confronted with high incidences on fair trade, illegal copying, imitations, lookalikes, faking, and smuggling. Those of us who write books, after you finish selling the books at lunch, that's the end. They just go and make copies, and it's all over the place at less than 1/3 of the price. And if you take them to court or to police, you may end up spending more money than you will have otherwise spent. 10, non-existent or insignificant incentives from government. And in a few cases, where there is provision on paper, there is hardly performance. Some states, go to check. I serve in a state public-private sector investment promotion council. You know, we have, when you come to our state, we'll give you documents of incentives. But in many states, to assess those incentives, you probably not even try, because you will waste your time. You want to see some key government officials. You go and attract an investor from Europe, of America. He arrives in Nigeria. He can't even see the government officials. They give him an appointment, they won't be there. What do Nigerians want? Nigerians are tired of living in a country with 43% of youth unemployment, 22% of underemployment. So in the youth population, you have about 65% unemployment and underemployment. Nigerians are tired of living in this nation. And a country with over 50% poverty rate and 51% misery rate, Nigerians are tired of living in this country. Nigerians are tired of being a country that has failed to diversify its income sources from crude petroleum, a country that cannot produce most of its needs, but has to depend on other countries. COVID-19, thanks be to God, we couldn't produce test kits. We couldn't produce anything. We're waiting for the world to give us vaccines. And whatever they give us, we take, whether it's the one that kills or the one that saves. Nigerians are really tired of living in a third world with low human development indices. We are tired. I am. And from what I've heard our previous speakers and those who review their presentations, we are tired of this situation. And the bishop is calling that we should rise up. And that's the call. We should rise up and take our fate in our hands. We've stayed behind writing books, organizing summits, doing conferences, pontificating, I think the time is now for us to throw our heads into the ring and get the job done and see what is stopping commonsensical things from being done over many years. Nigerians want to transit from a third world to a first world, like South Korea, Singapore, Japan, etc. Of course, examples were given of Thailand and Malaysia, countries that were in the same economic league with Nigeria in the 60s and 70s. Nigerians want full employment and economic empowerment for all the able-bodied, especially the youth in Nigeria. Nigerians want eradication of crushing poverty from Nigeria. Nigerians want increased quality of lives for all citizens. Nigerians want safety and peace to live and work. Nigerians want opportunity to live in a decent nation, which is at peace with itself. A country that is globally competitive and respected, where they and their children can live fulfilling lives. That's what we want. But to do so, Nigerian governments at all levels must turn their focus to promoting and supporting entrepreneurs and SMEs as the bedrock of the needed economic renaissance by doing some of these. And I itemize a few of them and I close. One, they must introduce compulsory entrepreneurial education in all higher institutions of Nigeria, institutions of learning in Nigeria, so we can begin to produce graduates who can solve problems and create wealth. My proposition is that henceforth, when people go to universities, which they should have two things in focus: learn how to solve problems and learn how to create wealth. Their final year should not be spent writing what they call projects or things that nobody reads. They should spend their last year writing business plans. When they want to do masters or PhD, they can do those dissertations. I know that nobody read mine after my instructor, supervisor. Nobody else. So, but I could have come out with 2 business plans and I presented them to a small business authority. Maybe they would have given me some grants to do market escalation. And then maybe I would have built my business earlier than I did. Number 2, we must make land and other inputs easily accessible to young entrepreneurs. You know, many young entrepreneurs will have been doing business, but they need land. And you ask them to bring 100 million, 50 million to buy land. Where would they get the 100 million or 50 million, or even 20 or even 10? Why doesn't government begin to think of partnering with young people? If you can't build parks or incubation centers where young people can take their businesses and start till they generate enough resources to begin to buy independent space, then government must design a mechanism to invest in the businesses of young people by providing them land and working with them till that business begins to provide cash flow, and then they can begin to take back the investment on the land. We should not ask them to pay for land upfront. They should pay from the cash flow from the business. It's possible. Government owns all the land, at least by our current laws. They should reduce bureaucracy in providing permits and licenses for entrepreneurs. Ladies and gentlemen, the new Nigeria we're looking at, right? You're going to have what we call business extension workers and industrial extension workers. They will work like the agri-extension workers. They're going to come to businesses and agricultural or industrial outputs. And they're going to come to you and say, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything government can do for you? Are you looking for a certificate of occupancy? Do you want a tax clearance? What is your problem? That's the way I think government should do to promote industrial and business revolution that will create the wealth, because by first creating the jobs and then creating the wealth. And then we'll deal with the issue of low productivity and issue of joblessness. So we need to provide industrial and business parks for entrepreneurs and investors to reduce infrastructural hindrances. We need to abolish multiple and multifarious taxes for SMEs, focus on job creation, and increase productivity to expand tax base. As a matter of fact, we may get to the point where we should even stop asking SMEs to pay tax for a given number of years. Why? What is important to government is to be able to get people employed. And if people are employed, even if that company is not paying tax, there's going to be personal income tax that will be paid by the employees, and they're going to spend their money in buying goods and services, and they instigate economic growth. And of course, through those purchases, you also get tax from them, sales tax. I believe that we should also create a stable policy environment, promote access to low interest and long-term financing for SMEs. The central bank has been doing a great job, but what they're doing is a drop of water in an ocean. The physical side of government must key in to the monetary side so that we can have the kind of stimulus. I mean, has anybody asked why America, since the COVID-19, how many rounds of stimulus they have given? Some trillions. Sometimes they had to mail checks to people, to people who have families. They mail check. It's not a loan. Why did they do so? Were they for the Christmas? They understand that is when the economy is moving, when there is purchasing power, that's what drives an economy. And in the long run, America will recover all that free money through increased taxation, whether it is sales tax, because everything in America is taxed. Even if you want to die in America, they also tax you for dying. We must design a bucket of irresistible incentives to promote investment. You must make yourself attractive for investment. You cannot beg investment. I think one of the panelists said it, and maybe George. You can't beg investment. Investment flows. You know, you can't beg water. You know, water flows down the hill. It follows gradient. That's how investment goes. It follows from where it's least recognized and rewarded to where it's better recognized and rewarded. That's all. Create a flow. Let people run into Nigeria. Investors arrive at the airport. You receive them on a red carpet. They are the people who should provide bullion vans or provide protection, not for Nigerians, except if those Nigerians are investors. Take them. The governor should welcome them. He should leave his office, go to the airport. Investors are coming. He leads them to his office. Not they go and land in the hotel and are booking an appointment to see the governor. And he may give them 1 week appointment or 2. Sometimes by the time they come, he has gone to a meeting in Abuja. Ladies and gentlemen, we must guarantee the enforcement of law and order. George said it, Dr. Como said it, and everybody says it. I think Cookie Graham, she said it. Everybody says it because without a robust law and order, not even the insecurity will come and force into that umbrella of law and order. Law enforcement, law and order. Contract fidelity, law and order. Because Nigeria is known as a country where everything goes. You know, one commissioner, when she was in power as Attorney General, they made a set of laws. When she left, another new laws were made. The minister or commissioner for works or minister signs some contracts. When he goes another, it is said, I'm not the one who signed it. A new one needs to be signed by a new commissioner. We're not talking about minister. We're not talking about governor. We're not talking about even government. That's the country we run. There's no way we can build an investment-friendly environment. We must have people understand that the essence of government must be the welfare of the people. And the welfare of the people must be that they're economically empowered. I'm talking about everyone being economically empowered. Conclusion. Mr. Chairman, very distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, the economy of this nation can be put in the path of sustainable growth if our leaders and policymakers can focus on creating an enabling and supportive environment for enterprise growth. That is the LCM. Every other story can fail, but just get the enterprise going, attract investors, local investors, domestic. If you see a young man trying to build a kiosk on the highway, stop government, greet him and say, you're doing a good job. Because this kiosk you are building, you're going to employ some carpenter, you're going to be an electrician, you're going to get some other services. Because the moment you buy plank from the market, you stimulated activity in the wood market. You buy electrical materials, you've caused a chain of reaction. Somebody's going to replenish. And you're going to get an electrician to fix it. That's how wealth is created. That's how job is created. I don't see what government should focus its attention on doing. If there's anything that would disrupt business in Lagos, government will call a security meeting. Let's stop it. In this town, business must run. If a public holiday falls a Saturday, government should not move the public holiday to Monday. You know, because the problem is that these guys have no understanding of time value for money. If you have borrowed money from a bank before, you know, they charge interest on Saturday, on Sunday, public holiday, they are charging interest. Even if you go on strike for 1 year, you pay interest. So we should treat Nigeria as, you know, Nigeria incorporated. And the money that we have treated like as if we borrowed it from the bank. You know, when we're talking about oil money, Nigeria Post Oil, which for me, my suggestion is that from 2023, only for 2 years should we put oil into our budget. 2 years to avoid a shock. But from the 3rd year, we should take oil completely out of our budget. We do what Norway is doing, or what I think even Saudi may be doing soon. Invest the oil money when it's still available. Invest it. And then only use the returns, either the interest or dividends, as budget items. Not the everyday National Assembly will spend 6 months arguing on the quantity of oil that we produce and then the price which they have no impact. There's nothing they can do. They spend 6 months. The Senate will finish debating on the benchmark price. Then the House will debate for 6 months. It is the most effective way of creating jobs, growing wealth, and reducing poverty. Additionally, it's also the most effective way of sustaining income for government through taxes, corporate and personal. I believe, truly, I believe that Nigerians want a new crop of enlightened, visionary, honest, competent, and courageous leaders that will ignite an entrepreneurial revolution that will take this nation out of chronic economic quagmire and unleash a new phase of economic prosperity for its long-beleaguered citizens. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.